3 years ago, this was never on the cards for us. We're literally just doing the paycheck week to week sort of situation. There is no way, if you were to say, Amy, in 3 years' time, you're going to be able to take your family, travel the world, and not have to worry about, income. I would have been like, what? That is a wild dream.
Welcome to Hard Ground. Welcome to Hard Ground.
Welcome, everybody. Today we have an amazing guest who is a beautiful friend of ours, mine mainly, Amy Dean, who's just an absolute legend. And we met on the internet, as so many of us do. And I used to be in affiliate marketing, still dabble on the side. And Amy kind of joined my team. And then she kind of went off in this like amazing world
She dumped you.
She dumped me for
I totally get
so
wrong.
many better things. Perhaps. But she went rogue because she found out there was this whole new world of diversifying your income. And this was like, I was kind of playing safe in this little zone over here. And then there was Amy, and she was just out there. She was making reels. She was growing her social media following.
Well, it's sort of like what I saw. So you saw this chick just went down a different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Like, let's see where this goes.
I did.
So
Yeah.
tell us, Amy, in your words, what brought you here? And yeah, let's dive into this conversation about diversification of income.
All right, team. Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so stoked to be on this amazing new podcast, which I'm very excited and so proud of you guys about. But like I said, and I've spoken to you, Steph, about this, is I've mentioned you on stage because you were the first person to ever open my eyes to the opportunities that were online. You were the introduction to it, although I didn't stay the course with it. I'm always forever grateful. I always love you for the fact that you were my stepping stone into this space that has literally fundamentally changed our lives. I know. Stop it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But in saying that, what led me to that point of like, I am looking at things and you popping up, I'd followed you for a while and I'd always resonated with you. I loved your content. And then you just mentioned something. And I was like instantly intrigued because where I was, it was 2023 when I started in this online space. And I'm an ex-teacher, so ex-primary teacher. I went on and did extra study to help children with dyslexia, and I became a literacy intervention specialist. And I opened my own clinic, which, everyone thinks starting your own business is like,
yes,
you've made it. Success, great success. Not to mention it cost $20,000 to set up and all the things that started. And I had to literally start from the beginning, but it also made me quickly realize in 2023, I think I was about 2 years into the clinic, that I was in a really tricky situation when I got wildly sick.
Okay.
So in 2023, this is what got me down to this rabbit hole of meeting you. I'm just diving into my story.
Dive away. Dive.
We're asking you to
I'll dive. We'll just dive deep, straight to the D&M. But so in 2023, I didn't know that I had stage 4 endo, and I had to run a clinic.
Wait. For the men out there, that means endometriosis.
Thank you, Steph. I was going to ask that.
I saw the questions in my husband.
I knew. I knew exactly what.
Don't worry, that's the whole system.
Blank.
Many people, I swear, they're still like, "What is women's fertility stuff?"
Yeah.
That's what I felt like. It was a terrible time, but in saying that, I had a clinic, and every time I didn't make it to one of my appointments, I lost my income. So I was in and out of hospital. I was living in debilitating pain. I couldn't sit on my bottom. Like I was rocking. I couldn't stand it. It was the worst time. Honestly, I'd give birth back to back to back. Worst pain 24/7. And it lasted months. So I couldn't sit in my clinic because I couldn't concentrate. It was horrific. And I remember the moment that everything changed for me was when I had to have emergency surgery and I had a $10,000 bill. And I was lying on my grass because I think it was you or it was Rosie. said, go and ground yourself.
It was definitely Rosie, not me.
It was Rosie. I was lying on the grass trying to ground myself, sobbing hysterically because I was like, I knew that I had to have I had 8 weeks off. I lost my income. It was all on my husband's shoulders. We were going to be out of pocket. And it was so stressful. It was so stressful. And then I found you. Well, I actually found you a little bit before that because I'd started looking, going, there has to be more to this than trading time for money. And I think a lot of people listening will be in the same boat. And this is why we're going to talk about diversification. Because I remember thinking at that time, I'll never be in this situation again, ever in my life. I will never not have a backup. Because as soon as I got sick, as soon as I was unable to work, my income disappeared. And I think that's a lot of people. Everyone has a job, or they might be a sole trader. And you don't plan. Things can happen completely out of the blue that you're not prepared for. And that completely sideswipes you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have backup, then you're literally, I just think, especially in today's world, we need to have backup. We need to have options. And it's something I was never taught. I love my parents. They did a fantastic job, but you're not taught it at school.
No.
I wasn't taught it by my parents. And so I had to learn the hard way. And now I'm obsessed with it. And I'm making sure my children are aware. And so that got me into this space. And it was the best and worst year of my life, 2023. Then
you're right, Amy, but just on that, just to quickly bring a certain amount of context to that as well, it's something that I think a lot of people inside of this industry are, trying to find a way into. It's just that the landscape is, well, it's not necessarily common, or it's not that it's common, it's not.
Oh, I was going to say this. It's not only farmers, right? But then there's a whole nother echelon of people, which are the farmers' wives that, have given up their conventional careers, and they're kind of like, hang on, there has to be another way that I can make an income, but still stay on farm.
But and on top of that, what Amy's describing as well, what you're sort of saying is that, when the chips are down, okay, for instance, if I go ahead and I break my back, okay, or I come off a horse and need a hip replacement or something like that, I don't know, then basically that means that,
You're out.
I'm out. My body's out, and this can happen to any operation. The other side of this as well is if you're sitting inside of a family organization and one of the partners or whatever decides, I'm out. I'm out. I want my money. I want to go. I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm stuffed this. We're walking. And then you've sort of been, all of a sudden I'm going to have to go through the process of what it looks like losing a portion of the farm. That's your capacity, losing a head and set of hands, all that sort of jazz. So
100%.
the disruption in life can happen at any moment, and to know that there's something that's going to carry you through that's going to give you a whole nother level of certainty and flexibility, even just to be able to go, okay, I can breathe easy for a second and make some non-emotional decisions here right now, because I bet at that time, Amy, you were feeling like the world is like crashing in.
Crushing.
What am I going to do?
Yep. Oh, 100%. And I think this is relatable to, like you said, it's in every sector. You can relate this to anything. If you do not have backup, I feel like you're a sitting duck. But again, people learn this the hard way, and they often do. And like you said, you're in a family business, someone walks away, you have to restructure all of that. And what does that look like? And like I said, it could come out of the blue. And for us, I had no idea I had it. I had no idea. And I was just going to say onto that, but what happened after that operation and I had the 8 weeks off and I'd started in this online space is I started to generate income online next to my clinic. So then I was making money in my clinic, but I started making this money alongside it. And what happened again, 2023 year for me, I ended up having my gallbladder was infected, probably because of all the drugs I was on from all the stuff and people not believing I had something wrong with me. I then had to get my gallbladder removed and I had to be in hospital for a week. But I remember being in my hospital bed because I diversified. I didn't have the clinic going.
Yeah.
I made $1,500 lying in my hospital bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember that moment going, okay, you're onto something here,
Mhm.
because I wasn't in my clinic, couldn't do anything, but I'd already now set up something that was going to make me money if I wasn't present. And now, yeah, sorry.
No, finish what you were going to say. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and now we've gotten to a point because I've become wildly obsessed, and I will say it's become an obsession because I don't now just want 2 things, 3 things, like a table, right? Think of it 4 legs. You know, if one breaks, it can sort of stand a little bit. If 2 breaks, you're stuffed, it's going to fall down. So I have got so many different legs on my table that you could knock 2 out and it'll be all right.
Okay. Well, just on that, this is what I wanted to ask. Often, and I think this is what happened when, I was working in the affiliate marketing space, and often people will say in the online space, and I'm using air quotes for the listeners, and let's like tie down some of the options of what that actually means, because it can mean a fair few different things.
Yes. Well, this is the one thing I've learnt. In tradition, like what we grew up with, were we all told to invest in? I can ask you guys. What were we told
Stocks.
to invest in?
Well, bank, stocks, housing.
Cattle.
Yes.
Cattle.
Cattle.
Okay, but not that.
Most of us, it's like housing,
Yeah.
stocks and shares.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're the basic ones. Everyone's like, oh yes, I've got stocks, I've got shares, I've got all this sort of stuff. So of course you can still, they're options. I mean, they're becoming even housing, what's happened from the budget last night. Anyway, we won't go into that rabbit hole. But what I've realized is there's so many more opportunities out there for people than they realize. I had no clue this world existed until I was in this online space. And that's why, again, I'm grateful. I've done digital marketing, I've done affiliate marketing, I've done network marketing, I sell my own products, and because I've said yes to a lot of things, I've met a lot of people. I'm a risk taker. Nothing in life, always remind people as well when they think of investing. I think people are often so scared to do something that it's funny. I actually remember my dad telling me, love you, dad, but it was nearly the worst advice ever. He's like, never invest in something you don't understand. And I was like, but how do you learn to understand it if you don't? It's like, well, then how am I going to learn to swim if I don't try doing that? Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are too scared to do things, but I always like to remind people that there is risk in everything we do. Even if we do nothing, even if we have housing, like a real estate portfolio and what's happened right now, that's going to look bad for a lot of people, stocks and shares, they could plummet, all the things. Leaving your money in the bank is a risk. It loses value every single day to inflation. I always just think that's why I'm like, I like to spread my risk. And I would say I'm in opportunities that are outside what we've been told, but I'm in opportunities where we're all going. So
can I just add something to that when people say they don't like taking risk? And I fully understand that, but I would challenge everybody to go and look around their home, and I bet you could point out $1,000 worth of waste that has just happened because you made a poor purchase decision, and you could have taken that $1,000 and invested it in a risk. It would have been far better off even if you lost it, because you've lost it anyway.
Oh,
this frustrates me so much.
It frustrates me so much. Oh my gosh. And guys, you're talking to someone who's literally moving, like we're about to go to world adventure. We've sold our house, and the things that we have gotten rid of, the materialistic stuff, and the value of what we've sold them for compared to what we bought them for. We've just lost so much in that.
Yes.
Because we're just get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. You're right. We just accumulate so much shit that's unnecessary that honestly, you could be putting that to work. And that's what I'm teaching my kids. I'm like, start small, get to work, chase that, take your capital back if you want, diversify, go into something else. So yeah, I like to diversify into things and opportunities. That is literally where the world is going. I do a lot of digital currencies. So I do work in the sort of decentralized crypto space, things like that. And it's because at the end of the day, if I'm hoping people are waking up, but our world is shifting really fast, really, really fast. And so the opportunities I'm in, and I'm literally like, gosh, I think I'm 10 different things. And some will go well, some will absolutely flop, because that's just the averages of
law of averages.
Law of averages. That's what it is.
You got
You
it.
know, exactly. That's thanks for the backup. But again, I've spread that risk
Yes.
and I always take out what I've invested in and then whatnot. But again, I look at where the world's going. The financial system's shifting really fast, and I'm in ahead of that shift essentially in different opportunities. So,
The something that you're sort of like communicating quite a bit, Ames, and like what we're really sort of witnessing is the outside the square thinking.
mm,
I think that there's a real line there. Just humor me on this for a second. So you started a difficult learning difficulty or spelling and writing difficulty clinic, correct?
yes,
Did
literacy and yeah.
literacy? Did you struggle with that as a kid?
I didn't, but my son, so what got me into that is our son he's got dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and I'm 100% positive my daughter does, but I haven't had her diagnosed.
Huh?
And what I realized as a teacher was how much those kids just went under the radar, but how much and this is probably another reason why I'm doing what we're doing, and we've pulled our kids out of school, and I have no fear around them. It's the best decision I've ever made, because school did not. It basically crushed his soul. It crushed his soul. It crushed his self confidence and everything like that. And so I started a clinic to help those kids gain some of that confidence back. But I was fighting a. It was a it was a everyday battle because they'd have me, but then they'd go back into the system for 6 hours a day or whatever, and then I'd come to me for 45 minutes. And it was one of those things, but it was heartbreaking to watch because these kids were just so crushed and they just thought they were dumb and all this sort of stuff. So yes, I loved it, but for my ADHD brain, I just yeah, I couldn't carry on with that. And when as soon as my online income surpassed what I was making in the clinic, I shut the clinic down, because, yeah, bless my ADHD brain, but it was really repetitive.
It,
I loved it, but it was yeah.
it's interesting. I'm just sort of tracking the journey a little bit here in the way that
Mm,
the thought processes and what I'm sort of just sort of putting together here is that you've sort of seen the way in which a system has been established to churn out a certain way of thinking. That
mm,
way of thinking is what we would call inside the square thinking.
mhm,
You go into the classroom, you sit in the side of a box and whatnot. Anyway, for many, it works really really well, and people thrive in it. And there's no ifs or buts about that, but some don't.
mm,
And I think like when you take that and you apply it into the world like this new world now, I think one of the most important things that you can sort of you know,
Teach kids.
evaluate or teach kids here is that I think we're taught that to fail is bad,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and when you're taught that to fail is bad, then that there's a consequence, of course. But if you're not going to have a go because you don't want to look stupid, you don't want your grades to be low. You don't want to yada 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 yada. And I know why it is done the way it is done. I get it. It makes sense. But at the same
mm,
time, if you're not that way inclined and all you seem to be getting is a constant fail, 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 and a pass is a victory,
yeah,
let alone whilst you've got others that'll, this one over here, was doing, getting distinctions left, right, and center.
Ah, what's with it?
It's sort of, to me, it goes, okay, it locks you into a frame,
yeah,
and in the frame, you stay inside of that, even if it's failing, even if the boat's sinking,
Mm.
you're still locked into the frame until you
mhm,
decide, like, it still hurts enough until it's gotten to the point where you're like, this isn't working and I need to look at something
But
else.
can I just add on that, even though, so I had to work really, really hard to get good grades,
Mm.
but I did that because I thought that was the only way to succeed. So it's
100%.
actually, it doesn't matter which end of the spectrum you're in,
Mm.
you're taught that you must conform to this certain way of doing things. Otherwise, you'll not be recognized. You'll
Yep.
not be recognized. And actually, thanks to social media and the
Mm,
freedom that has come with platforms such as all the platforms, it's
yeah.
given people a different way to do things.
100%. And adding on to that, I was having a conversation with a friend, I think it was yesterday, and I was like, even in school, the people who do well are always praised and acknowledged.
Mhm.
They get the academic award, things like that. There is nothing that measures your kindness, your empathy,
No.
your ability to be a good human. And that's what my son was. And so for me, and this is what, as a mother,
So true.
I was like, this is not a good environment for him. This is going to do nothing for him. He had no thing to go to university and whatnot. And because I've now got this amazing ability to earn differently than what we've all been told. Again, what are the options? Go to university, get a trade. So many people said to me, is he going to get a trade? What trade's he going to do? And I'm like, probably not. Probably not going to do a trade. But we're living in a world, and this is another thing that we all need to understand and recognize, that AI is coming in hard and fast. There is a generation of children in university at the moment who will not have a job at the end of it and have
Yeah.
a huge health debt
Yeah.
because AI will completely replace it.
Yeah.
It's
So
happening
we have
at a
it's
rate.
happening, and at a fast rate. And we're like, we have to equip our children, and the education system is not doing that. They're
No.
not equipping our children for what's coming. They're setting them up to fail.
Yeah.
And so it's now in my hands, and I've taken the kids, and we're doing something different to teach them a different way of thinking and doing and investing and having multiple income streams and not relying on this is going to come from us and surrounding kind of people who think differently than our beautiful baby boomer parents. And oh my, because that's a different world. It's a different world
Yes,
from
it
what they grew
is.
up in.
That's right. But it's funny though, the legacy associated with, like, why I put it down is worshipping at the temple of education. Okay, that's how I sort of see it. Is that everything is focused on education because in times past, education
Was
equals
freedom.
freedom and wealth and look,
Right.
it is very important. If you're
Yeah.
not educated, then
Mm.
then I'm sorry, then you're slamming the door.
But isn't it funny that we say if you're not educated, but like Amy's just pointing out, in what capacity exactly? Because we could argue that our children are not being educated, not in the way that they desperately need to be.
Exactly. It's not in the way that they need to be. That's where, I mean, my daughter came home and could name me 3 different types of rocks. And I was like, huh, I wonder when she's going to be able to utilize that in her life. Like she's a sediment. Oh, I can't even remember. Even I don't remember. But so again, I just think it comes down to for me, myself personally, and this other people absolutely disagree. And I wholeheartedly respect that. Um, I'm going to be taking my children and teaching them a different way of living and different way to what we've all been told is the correct way. Because I do believe that, especially with where Australia is heading and what's happening, and it's such a shame because we've got such a beautiful country, and I just think it's going down the toilet. Um, I'm like, more now than ever, do I need to give them different options and show them a different way of living? Because if I was to just keep them in the system, hey, purchase a house, good luck trying to purchase a house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they now become, and I loved the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki saying, and we've all got Australian dream, right? Own a home. That is your Australian dream. And he's just like, stop thinking of home as an asset because you can't make it liquid tomorrow.
Yeah.
So everything that I'm in at the moment, I can make liquid. I can move it. I relate it to sort of Bitcoin, right? Who was it? I can't remember who told me this, but it was a really beautiful way to represent it. You've got a house. If you needed some money, you can't sell like a square meter of your
Yes.
house.
Yeah.
But you can take a 0.011 thing of a Bitcoin and sell that to have some, to make it
Cash.
liquid, to have some cash.
Yeah.
And I think again, we're going to be showing our kids a different way to invest, a different way to set themselves up. And it's going to be outside of the university, the trades, 9 to 5 jobs. And I'm not saying that's bad. They're going to have, I want them to have good work ethic, but for their brains and how they work, the education mainstream system wasn't going to work for them. So I'm glad that I've got stage 4 endo. I'm so glad it introduced me to you because now I've literally set my kids up. And I wouldn't have done that if I never had it, honestly.
What a great perspective.
I do ask, can I ask your opinion though? The one industry I would say that is just going to smash it out of the park because a lot of people don't have these skills anymore are the trades.
Oh, 100%. They're going to be like teeth head, like hen's teeth head. Like
Teeth
and
hen.
the issue being is that there is a lot of people, because we had a building business, right, too.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally missed that up. Maybe I am
So-
dyslexic. I don't know. Um, but we had a building business as well. And I think what my husband recognized is that it was really hard to find young people wanting to work hard
Yeah.
for the wage that they're supposed to be on as a first year apprentice.
Yeah.
And it crushed, our business really struggled to hold on to anybody. So yeah, trades of young people who are hungry and happy to start here and not up the top where they all think they need to start. They're going to be, gosh, in years of time. Can you imagine?
Oh,
Like, you've got to think of where the AI can't take over, I guess.
yeah,
That's
but
right.
where it's gonna be very slow in adoption. But it's that's scary because anyway, that's a whole nother conversation because I mean we're talking about the state of the country in so many ways. And you just talk to a plumber or a sparky and talk about getting
Oh.
anybody on who's willing to work. It's just not going to
Dad,
happen.
like
Yeah,
constantly,
exactly. So it's-
constantly trying to get
Labor's
tradesmen.
a major issue, and that
Yeah.
just goes back to the culture and the failing culture of Australia, and the failing culture of wanting to damn well work and recognizing the joy in it.
But I would say as well, I think it's a really tough gig to put on these guys if they're trying to pay off a home loan and run it and like have some of these guys have young families and they're married already and then say to them, hey, but you have to be on this minimum wage, but you got to make ends meet.
No,
That's a
not at this time, no. Like, sorry, but if you're an apprentice, you don't have a family.
some of them do.
If they do, then my goodness, then talk about family planning. But for the most part, for the vast most part,
No, I think it's unreasonable to ask tradies to live on what they have to
you're
live
not
on.
talking about trades,
Okay,
you're talking about
sorry.
apprentices.
Yeah. Okay.
Apprentices.
Yeah.
My husband was on $7.50 an hour as an apprentice.
Yeah.
And he lived to his means in the sense of margarine, like whatever those noodles are called.
Migraine.
Yeah, migraine noodles.
Those ones. He lived on it.
Okay, that's true. I will say sometimes, but like when my dad has to hire people, he's got to hire them at minimum wage, which I think now is like $30 an hour for someone who doesn't know how to do anything.
That's right.
So
Exactly.
I agree, but I just also am pointing out cost of living is insane. And so for people to live on that, it's really hard.
Of course. Exactly.
100%.
It's a policy
And
issue.
that's why you need options.
Diversify your
Exactly.
incomes.
Let's bring it back down.
Full
'cause-
circle.
yeah.
Full circle.
Full
That's
circle.
why you literally need options. And again, if you're listening to this or watching it, I'm like, for the love of God, if you are someone and you're sitting there going, oh my goodness, I only have my income. And if you think about worst case scenario, if you, let's just say you've got a cancer diagnosis, which is happening more and more and more and more these days, or
We won't go into
whatnot,
that.
and you think about it, go, oh my gosh, I have nothing. I seriously encourage you to start looking and start finding options that are, that you're comfortable with. But I mean, I'm talking about so many things. Like we got gold, silver. We're just so spread. And so that's what I think. I think people now need to have that because again, it's so hard. Even on, again, my husband and I were talking 10 years ago, 12 years ago, if he was on 120K, I remember I was talking about that going, oh, we made it. Like we've made it.
Yeah.
Mums can stay home, look after the kids, da 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 da. There is no way in this world that 120K wage is going to sustain a family. You need both parents working.
Yeah.
And that's the terrible corner that I think our country has backed families into. They
Yeah.
don't have the choice to have a stay-at-home mum situation. And I feel like they are doing that on purpose. Just
It's a
like,
vicious
Oh,
cycle.
I know.
Vicious
I know.
cycle.
there's
We
a
agree.
whole nother
So-
thing.
Amy, can I ask you? So,
Yeah.
like, on this, I don't know anything about
Mhm.
anything about what you're talking about. Okay,
Mhm.
but I'm very intrigued, and I would like to
Yeah.
know
Where
how
do I go?
Yeah, where do I start? Like, what do I look at?
Look, I can only speak on what I've done, and for me, with where I've done, and Steph would understand this, I have done the hustle. I have done where I have to sell something in order to make money, and don't get me wrong, it was amazing. It shattered the glass ceiling of what I thought I could make. I made 100K in 5 months in 2023. And that for me was it was just incredible. But in saying that, I now look for opportunities where my money makes me money and I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at compound interest. So where, again, it challenges people's conditioned beliefs with the things that I do. Because, you know, what we're told in the bank is if you've got a term deposit and you've put $20,000 in there. Most term deposits, I can give you Westpac for an example because I looked at it. It's 3.95% per annum, so you're making about 700 something dollars on that 20,000. But you've got to think about what the banks have just made on that 20,000. They leverage your money. They fractional reserve banking. They take it, they loan it, they loan it, they loan it. They get 8% or 8%. That's how they make $1.1 million a day. So when people go with the things that I look at insane compound interest. I look at private equity. I love, I'm obsessed with the private investment firm that I'm in.
Okay. Okay, I'm a cocky and I'm looking into this, but I'm not sure, who can help me out. I don't have a huge amount of time to go through everything that you've gone through, because I've still got sheep to feed. And, is there someone to talk to? Is there consultants or anybody we can actually reach out to and say, hey, I don't know what to do, but I've got this amount. What do I do with it?
Oh, 100%. So, firstly, I always say I'm far from a financial advisor. Like I can only tell people what I do and what
Mhm.
I've done and what's worked for me. And most people do. They go to a financial advisor, but I'd always like to remind everybody that that financial advisor works in the system. So they're going to tell you to do traditional stuff. So you need to find those people who think outside the box or doing something different. I help people and I show them what they can do and I show them what's possible.
Mm.
So people reach out to me all the time and I'm more than happy to show them that. And walk them through how they do that because it's like anything. I've taught myself everything that I've done by I throw myself into it. So I've learned, and I think I've spoken to Steph about it. I've had to learn everything by myself, but I'm so happy to talk to people through that. Because yeah, it's like anything. You don't learn to swim by watching others do it. You have to do it yourself, and you have to do it multiple times, multiple times. Because yes, I have I suppose you say I don't actually know how to say this part. I might have to, but yes. So I help people get started. I can help people get started and show them what I do without giving them financial advice or anything like that. I can help people get started, and show them the different offerings because the only way that I knew about these things is by somebody else telling me.
Now that even
It's
if
not.
even if
It's
that
not
looks
something that's advertised.
even if that looks like something like, just having a conversation and breaking down the stories,
Mm,
just breaking
mm.
breaking down the stories inside of the whoever it is that's approaching, like, oh, I don't know about that. But hey, you've reached out, you're obviously intrigued enough. Tell me what is it that you're actually concerned about? Because I get it, but da 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 da
Yeah.
da.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's a lot of the again, it's what I and Steph, you know this, working in this space and helping helping others is you see the human psyche play out and the conditioned beliefs are so strong, especially Australians. We are told if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work really hard for your money. Da 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 da. And when I show them a different way, and especially for us with what we're doing, like we are literally traveling with 5 of us. My husband everyone first question I get is, "What's your husband gonna do?" I'm like, "Well, he doesn't have to do anything because of what we've set up and what that provides to us each week." And people struggle to understand that. They really struggle. So what I also say to people and what I encourage people to do is have an open mind, you know, be open. Question why you're questioning everything. Is it a conditioned belief? Is this because your dad told you that that's, everything that I've done? Literally, Steph, you get everything I've done in the online space has been called a scam.
Yeah.
Everything. And Magic was called a scam.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's been on the ABC News and all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
My affiliate marketing with the guys called a scam. Anything I've done in the crypto space has been called a scam. Everything outside of a 9 to 5 has been called a scam. And that's what I always but I always remind people, or I have to tell them these things because again, when the banks, like for example, an ANZ got a 11 point something million dollar misconduct fine for essentially scamming and ripping off customers, it's not called that. It's called a misconduct.
Mm. Mm.
And again, just people need to start reading between the lines of what we're told by mainstream media, what we're fed to us, and start thinking for themselves. Critical thinking is one of the biggest skill sets I think we need in this day and age.
Mm.
Yeah.
We need to start thinking for ourselves. We need to start reading between the lines. We need to start realizing why the banks are making it really hard for people to move money. Any capacity. You might
Yeah.
take $10,000 out in cash. What are you using it for? Where
Mm.
is it going? What are you spending me? Show me the receipt. And I'm just like, wake up.
The
Like
audacity of that just boggles my mind. No, I'm
it's
sorry, it's nobody's business what you're spending your money on. It's insane, but it's happening.
however, in saying that, you have signed terms and conditions with your
Mm.
bank and you cannot access your bank. I'm with Commonwealth Bank, that's one of my banks. I cannot access my bank account until I click the terms and conditions that I agree to it.
Yeah.
And I guarantee people, if they read the terms and conditions, they would go, holy shit, I don't want my money sitting here. Because at the end of the day, when you put your money in the bank, you're an unsecured creditor. You technically don't own it. They do, hence
Mm.
why they can leverage it and play the
Mm.
game.
Mm.
And if you want to move it, they can stop you.
Yeah.
They can block you, they can lock you, they can restrict you, they can call you, they can get the frauds department onto you. And I guarantee there'd be so many people listening to this go, oh, I've had that recently.
Oh,
I sold something on Marketplace and it was a big door for $2,000. She's like, Amy, I can't send you the money. They think it's a scam. So she had to send me $2,000 cash with the removalist. I was like, do you trust these guys? Like, it's crazy what's happening. And people are shocked. And I'm like, don't be shocked by it. Make you be angry enough to do something about it and to have some
Mm.
control of your money. So that's another thing. The stuff that I'm in, I want control over my money. I don't
Yeah.
want it to be controlled by the system because if it's in the system,
You don't
you
own it.
are you don't own it
Yeah.
and you're controlled by it. And as soon as they bring in what they're planning on bringing in, but they're distracting you with everything else.
Mm.
And I know this is going a bit left field, but this is why I do what I do. Is because as soon as they bring in CBDCs, central banking digital currencies, which have been rolled out in other countries, it's in Canada, China, it's happening. They've did Project Acacia, they tested in Australia. It's everything is moving to digital currencies. The AUDD, the Australian digital currency, has just been released. It's all happening. And if you don't have your money in us, again, this is not financial advice. I'm just telling you my knowledge of what I know and why I have done what I've done is if you don't have something that you can control and own where there's no third party that
Mm.
can stop you and block you, you're going to be fucked.
Mm.
I'm going to be so frank. You will
Beep.
not beep. You will not be able to control your money. It will be programmable. And everyone, again, so many people, there might be some who are going, conspiracy theory. And I'm like, it's not. It's written in the Agenda 2030 team. It's all there
Yeah.
written in. You've just got to be open enough and read through the beautiful buzzwords that they've got on there
Mm.
and what it actually means for us, you know?
Well, I can even attest to what you're saying there with the, transferring of money with the bank thing. I wanted to transfer some money into some crypto and I already had this years ago and it was doing really well and I wanted to get some more and I went to transfer it and my bank was like, nope. And I said, well, hang on, I've made that transaction heaps of times before and you never had a problem with it 2 years ago. Now, no siree. It could be a scam. And I was like, but I'm telling you, I know it's not a scam. I'm happy to take that risk with my own money. This is what I was saying to the fraud people. And they're like, we're sorry. We're not going to allow you to take that risk. The answer is no. And I just flat out was not allowed to move my money.
100%. And everybody tells you your money is safest in the bank. And I am just like, the less I can have in there, the best. And
Yeah.
and that's again, you're not going to be taught that at school. You're not going to be taught that at university. It's sure as hell not going to be taught that by, you know, anyone from the government. So you need to learn this stuff yourself. But you have to be open-minded enough to go, all right, I need to educate myself. Because like I've said to you, Steph, before, I'm like, whether you like it or not, the system's going to change and you're either going to learn it yourself or you're going to be taught the hard way. And you're going to have to learn because the whole plan is for everything to move into digital currencies. And that's what's happening at the moment.
So it's not just so much it's not just so much diversification, it's decentralization. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
decentralize where your money is currently pooled, so that there, if with whatever may occur, or if you want to have a true autonomy over your own wealth, and that of however that looks, then this is something that needs to be considered, because at any moment
100%.
this could be basically locked up. Your freedom to be able to spend it however you want to spend it will start to slowly whittle away.
100%. So people might understand that. So we've got the centralized system, we've got the decentralized system. So the centralized system is where we all live. That is the banking system, it's the, taxes, government, all this sort of stuff. That's in the centralized system. That's fully controlled. So our spending is, we have to report on everything, all this sort of stuff. The decentralized, and there's a middleman. So if I'm wanting to send you money, like Steph and Josh, if I want to send you money, I have to get that. It will go through the middleman and they'll approve it or not, essentially. But the decentralized, so in the decentralized space, there's no middleman. I could send you 20K right now and it just goes straight into your thing within a couple of minutes,
Hmm.
and there's no one stopping you. And if I want to, you can spend it. People don't realize that they can spend it. They can tap and use a card. There's so many payment options.
Mm.
Um, and the reason why I think the banks are, because again, Steph, in the 2 years that I've been like dabbling in this and learning and learning and learning, it has changed
Dramatically.
uh, dramatically. The landscape has changed with what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And the banks clamping down on that has become, and they all say it's for your own safety, it's for your own safety, it's for your own safety. I'm
Yeah.
just like, and again, people need to realize why they're doing it, because as soon as you move it out, so you can move it into a central exchange, which is what you had, Steph, and that's what people also don't understand. If it's in the central exchange, you don't own the keys to it and it still can be seen by everything. And so sometimes they're quite happy to move it to there. But as soon as you try and move that out into what's called like a decentralized exchange,
Yeah.
or one where you have your own keys. Again, I'm not an expert
Well,
in this field. I've just learnt.
just for people, what would you say would be an example of that? Like, would you say Bitcoin is an example of that?
Uh, Bitcoin held in self custody. So holding Bitcoin on a centralized exchange is still centralized. You don't own the
Okay.
keys.
Okay.
So putting Bitcoin in something like a self-custodial wallet
Mhm.
where you own the keys to it, so you might have seed phrase to it or something like this. Again, that might be new to people, but if I can learn this, anyone can learn this, then you have ownership over it. And they don't like sending it to that, because as
Okay.
soon as it's out here, they've lost control.
I can't touch it.
They can't, they'll, don't get me wrong, I feel like with technology and things like that, they'll eventually start to, but you have more control over it here than you do over here.
Mm.
So again, this is just what I've learned. I'm not claiming to be an expert in the field, or someone listening might be like, I've just learnt through doing and learnt through speaking to people and applying it myself. But that's the difference. There's a big difference between those two. But I do believe having sovereignty and some ownership over something of your finance, like even if you can have something over here that you own, is so important,
We
because yeah.
we like as people in the land, like we have a lot to do with our banks. Basically, a
That's
lot of us
true.
are just basically owned by our banks. Like debt is a major reality for us. And those who aren't, we've struck relationships up with our managers and such. So we sort of operate by the relationship we hold with and usually a major bank of some kind.
Mm,
Some are better than others.
mm,
When looking at this, it's hard to, like, I can imagine it's hard to sort of comprehend that these people would want to try and control our money to the degree that we no longer have sovereignty over it.
mm,
But what it sounds like, Ames, is that actually, even though there is there's the front facing, or the front facing aspect of the bank, there is a back facing one that says, well, actually, which is in the fine print, that
Mm.
says otherwise. And
mm,
it's through that, they're like, where the sovereignty, the line of your
Mm.
sovereignty over money is drawn. That's a tricky kind of a place,
It's
isn't it?
so confronting. I think this whole conversation is so confronting for people, even for me with school, for example. Like for, our kids, there's so many elements of school that I disagree with. So many. And I think a lot of people feel like that.
Mm.
But the bravery it takes to push against the system is real.
But
It's massive.
is it really pushing against the system, or it's just recognizing that actually you've got more avenues that are available to you
And you think?
than you would believe?
Yeah, but tell that to the cockies of Australia thinking of sending their children to boarding school like we are. What would we seriously choose not to send our child to boarding school or children in lieu of this taking them down this other path like you are, Ames, for your
Mm.
children believing that you can educate your children in a way that's going to set them up for this world far better than a conventional schooling system would be? No way. Cockies are so traditional as well. Like we
Massively.
believe in the old school vibes of worshipping at the helm of education, as you were saying before.
Yeah, it's just that, like, I think
But I
think
have these conversations with people like Amy, and I'm like, we need to take our children out of school. Let's go. Like,
yeah, but I think I think the cases are differing dependent on the child and that kind of thing as well. Like, I think we have to be careful not to generalize inside of that, only because some kids will thrive inside of boarding school, and then they will actually the education really is the boarding. If anything else, like you want a
they're
good
probably going to get the
education.
most out of boarding
Well,
school
that's what, like, I remember
education.
Yeah.
I was at my
Yeah.
20-year reunion, and we were like, the best thing we learnt was the boarding,
Mm.
because the boarding was the real life skills and experience that we had to learn to grow up fast and think on your feet.
Which probably, only just drives home the point is that the conventional education side of things is not where kids learn. I mean,
No.
they learn what they learn, but
It's just that you don't have. I know education's a hard one because, like, the access to and the facilitation regarding, just a different scope and prospect is not available if you're living back of Burke. It's like you've either
Yeah.
got the public education system and all that entails,
Mm.
okay, or you send them to a boarding school. You're going to Farah, Kawarossi, whatever,
Or you teach them like
or you teach them at
Amy's doing
home.
with her kids.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I say that I am definitely not going to be doing any form of that type of education with them. I'm absolutely outsourcing it. So for us, I will be, and believe it or not, like where we're going, so we're going to Indonesia first. In Bali, there's incredible international schools there that are, for me, they're far more advanced than Australian schools. And people wouldn't believe that. There's two people in this world, the people who absolutely love Bali and the surrounds, and the people who are like, oh, I'll never go there. It's a shithole. You know? But I'm like, but there's incredible, like the international schools there are far more advanced than what Australian schools are.
That's wild.
They're doing podcasting studios. They're encouraging entrepreneurship. They're making them speak in front of the whole school and work on a project that's outside. That's literally going to be beneficial. It's insane. It's amazing the opportunities that are there. But in saying that, like, yeah, for time being, my kids will just be doing maths and English, and they'll learn history, geography, and all that sort of stuff through exploring and doing, and they'll learn so much more. And just by being around people, interpersonal skills, all that sort of stuff, being able to hold a conversation. My gosh, like that is for the youth, the generation, the youth of today. I find that is one of the hardest things that they're going to struggle to do because their faces are always in phones. Is just being able to hold a conversation.
Well,
And so again, I'm not. I even if I was staying at home, I would not be homeschooling my children, only because I would not have the capacity or the patience.
yeah.
But I would hate them in it, but I would probably still keep them in it. The only why I'm doing this is because we're pulling them out and we're traveling,
Yes.
and that's it. So yeah, exactly. Most people, it's just not for
A
the everyday
possibility,
person.
yeah.
possibility. They have to do that. But all I'll say is just make sure my kids, I would always, they were also aware of the other side of education as well.
Well, I think
So
what you're really saying there brings us full circle to it, diversifying your income gives you options. That's
correct.
really what this is about. It gives you options. It gives you a backup plan, like you're saying, but it also allows you to, yes, maybe take off and travel and teach your children in a different way if that's what you would like to do. Whatever it's,
100%.
whatever you want to do, that's irrelevant. Giving yourself those options is where really this conversation comes full circle, because that's what diversifying your income can give you.
Well, I would even add to that and say that it's that you're not just diversifying and decentralizing your income, but it's so you're taking yourself out of the financial square that we're herded towards and to fit inside of. That also
Correct.
is reflected inside of, diversifying and, decentralizing the way you educate your children.
Exactly.
And how you can get them to start learning um, the more not necessarily alternate, but the outer square thinking and processes that are going to be the things that are going to be valuable. Because with this new age of AI, regardless of if it's you're in career or whatever, the one thing I've heard this on a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different conversations regarding what will be the most valuable or the last thing to be adopted, or what's going to be of any kind of import. It's going to be the creative mind. It's going to be
100%.
the ones that are actually going to come up with new things, and you are not going to do that if you are stuck in the square.
Yeah.
So it's
A hundred
Yeah.
percent. I think now more than ever, we need to, again, all of these things, the kids' education, the sovereign, it's all about just taking some power and control back from a system that I don't think is set up to make you succeed.
Mm.
I believe the system is setting you up to fail. I believe the education system is just a conveyor belt for people to just get in and become a blue collar, like to work. Um, Again, this is just my beliefs. I don't believe it encourages children to think entrepreneurially, think outside the box. Again, there's only one way to answer this question. It's
Mm.
insane. I had, a family friend's son who, did think differently. He could answer every single maths question correctly, but he couldn't show the
Yes.
working out. And they're like, "How did you do that?" He's like, "I do it in my head."
Mm.
And, he was just incredibly bright, but they didn't acknowledge that. And that's what I think the schooling system for me, and the system in general is
Good
just not
example.
designed
Great.
Yeah, I love that example too, because like my eldest, she really understands stacking numbers for addition. That's
Mm,
it's actually how we all learnt it in the 90s. You stack the numbers
yeah,
over the top, you add them up, happy days.
yeah,
However, because in the education system now they are trying to teach kids multiple different versions of working out to get the same answer, the kids have to learn and demonstrate that they understand every single version of how to get to this answer. And and actually, they do get a point. I will say they get a point for the correct answer, but
mm,
they might miss out on 4 points because they haven't showed they're working out correctly. But they get
yeah,
1 point for getting the answer right, so it's a point for each section of that problem.
mm,
But I feel devastated for someone like my eldest who is like, "But mum, none of those other versions make sense to me. But if I do it this way, I've got it."
yeah,
However, it has to be structured in a certain way because of, the system and the way we have to, you know, I guess like,
Comply.
yeah, well, like have a version that we all have to live by,
yeah,
they've got, blah, blah, blah. And so she really misses out in that time because she's like, "No, I've got terrible marks, but I really got it, but I just didn't do it the way I was told. And so I
exactly.
missed out."
Oh
Really,
my
really
gosh,
hard.
and as a mum of some of
Yeah.
children who do not fit the educational mold and
Yeah.
watching what that does
That's
to them,
us as well. Yeah.
it was heartbreaking, it was infuriating, it was frustrating, it was it's so for me, I just and again, this is our experience, right? And
Mm.
Mm.
being an ex-teacher as well, I just don't like it. I don't
Yeah.
like the system, full
Yeah.
stop.
I know a
Um,
lot of teachers,
yeah.
who don't teach anymore because of that.
And exactly. And so part of me was like, this is an amazing opportunity that we've got. But can I also just say, is that, like I said, I said earlier, 3 years ago, this was never on the cards for us.
Mm.
This opportunity was never on the cards for us. 3 years ago, we were literally just doing the paycheck week to week sort of
Yeah.
situation. Because my husband had a building business. I had my clinic. He was struggling because COVID had rocked that sort of thing. Like, and it was still trying to recover. It was such a stressful time. There was no way if you were to say, Amy, in 3 years' time, you're going to be able to take your family, travel the world, take your children out of the system that you hate, and be able to spend and make memories together and not have to worry about income. I would have been like, what? That is a wild dream.
Yeah.
And in 3 years, we've been able to make that happen because, again, we were open-minded. We were yes people. I always say, just say yes and see where things land you. Um, it was Richard Branson had a great quote about that. He's like, I'd have to find it, but it's a brilliant quote about saying yes to opportunities and then figuring it out along the way.
Yeah.
And again, even if that opportunity fails, it's still everything I've done. You could say I've failed multiple times in this space, but it's been a beautiful redirection into, oh, okay, now I'll try this. Oh, now I'll try this. Now I'll try this. So I never look at that stuff. Talking about failure earlier, how, the kids get an A, B, C, D, E. My kids, they struggle. So I got E, that's fail. I'm like, no, it's just showing you areas that you either need to improve on or it's a redirection. Do you know what I mean? I just think I just think if we can show our children especially a totally different way of doing things and redirecting them, because it hasn't been a beautifully positive experience and all this sort of stuff. And because of what I've been able to achieve in the last 3 years, I'm just like, why I'm excited for what we can do. And it's all thanks to 3 years ago, basically.
So I would say, Ames, what's one thing you would like to leave the listeners with today? What's one piece of advice you could give to people who are completely green in this area, have no idea? What would you say to them?
Stop being so skeptical about everything that you don't understand. Just honestly, I feel, because that's the biggest thing I see is people are again, that conditioning is so deep and strong in Australians. They're so, because I can't speak on the rest of the world, but you know what I mean? Like, we're so conditioned to be skeptical of everything. And even, gosh, I even remember internet banking coming in and that being a major change for our parents. And being like, how do we know it's going to get there? How do we know it's going to land?
Yeah.
And then we just learned and we adapted. But I'm just like, be open-minded. Say yes to opportunities. Start small. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Don't be afraid of everything.
Yes.
Be afraid of doing nothing. Your biggest risk is doing nothing. You risk everything by doing nothing.
Yes.
And I truly believe with where the world is going, where Australia is going, you need to just start doing something or start looking at opportunities and options for you to start diversifying. Start with one leg, then diversify again, then diversify again. And believe it or not, the connections I've made because I've been open to opportunities has been amazing. I've got amazing people in the crypto space. I've got amazing brokers that I can connect people with. And I'm like, this is a person who sets you up in private banking. This one deals with all Bitcoin. And I've got those connections everywhere now because I was open and I said yes and I wasn't scared of everything.
Yes.
So all I'll say is just be aware that there are things out there that are better than the system we've been brought up in.
Yeah. And not everything is a scam.
And not everything is a scam. Of course, you come across them. And of course,
you have to be careful, but yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been I've obviously been in things and they haven't collapsed yet or anything like that. And they haven't been rug pulled. So I haven't been in anything like that yet. But no doubt there probably will be because, again, I'm a yes person. I'll be like, sure, what's this? Okay, yeah, sure, I'll shove a little bit in that. Sure, I'll shove a little bit in there. Because I'm just like, at the end of the day, I'm risking it just letting it sit there, letting it sit there in the bank. Because honestly, again, the $20 that you have sitting in the bank 10 years ago could have bought you a beautiful breakfast, your coffee, something else. It's barely going to, get you across onto the coffee these days. You know what I mean? So, just be open. That's all. Just be open and say yes to things that you might not be and just learn on the go. That was a lot to leave them with.
Amy Dean, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was awesome.
You are so welcome. That was so fun. Sorry, we were so all over the shop, but I love it.
Welcome to